I've paid full price for most first-person horror games, and after playing all of them, I can say Resident Evil 7 is great.
It's okay. It's okay, it's me.
But I don't think it's the best one anymore. Hey folks, my name is Thomas, and these are 17 first-person horror games that aren't Resident Evil 7.
Room 610, Block B.
Coming in at number 17 is Fobia Street Dinfna Hotel. You might expect this to be a shooter set in a decaying hotel, where you just grab a gun and start fighting. But that's not the case at all. It's actually more of an adventure puzzle game that just looks like a shooter. You spend your time searching for keys, solving puzzles, and carefully managing your limited ammo.
Please, enjoy your stay.
The combat feels clunky on purpose. It's not designed to make shooting feel satisfying. It actually makes you want to avoid it. The hotel itself is this rotting, cursed place where every key you find unlocks a worse than the last. It really has that Resident Evil DNA running all through it. Corridors that loop back on themselves, rooms that only make sense after you find the right key. The thing that actually got me was the camera. There's a mechanic where you look at things through an in-game camera lens, and some things in the hotel only appear when you use it. I spent 10 minutes in the laundry room just slowly moving the camera across an empty wall.
I tried calling my family, but couldn't get through.
Dark underground tunnels stretching further than your flashlight's ever going to reach. That's Metro Last Light in one sentence. The setting's a nuked-out Moscow where what's left of humanity is living down in those tunnels, and the surface up above is somewhere you visit, not somewhere you live.
Let's go to the main entrance. There's a good shooting position there.
The horror here isn't jump scares, and the gas mask is not just there to look cool. The filters, the cracked glass, the heavy breathing, without them, you would be dead from radiation. And all of it turns survival into something you have to constantly pay attention to. I'd put the pacing next to Half-Life 2 rhythm. Linear, story-heavy, but never just a plain hallway. You can shoot your way through parts of it, sneak through others. The game quietly tracks your actions through a morality system instead of your dialogue choices, and it never tells you the score.
How do you like your cell, inmate?
The first thing that grabs you in Luna Abyss is how strange the place looks. The environments have this organic, almost inside-a-body look to them, with shapes and spaces that don't really look like normal sci-fi corridors. It's dark fantasy, but not the clean armored kind. This comes from a smaller team, and you can tell they're comfortable making a specific mix. It's an FPS, but also pulls in bullet hell patterns, like Returnal but in first person. So you have to focus. You dodge projectile spreads, learn enemy timing, die, retry, and slowly get better. That Souls-like loop is a big part of the appeal, but means this is not built for everybody. I kept watching projectile patterns, which most FPS horror games do not do. If you want a simple horror shooter, this may be too niche and demanding. But for players who like punishment and fights like Souls-like FPS games, you can try Luna Abyss.
My great-grandfather Jebediah's crew used to live in this village.
This isn't a game you sit down and play alone on a quiet night. It's made for 4 people, everyone on their mics, and there's always something chaotic around. It's the spin-off to Sker Ritual, the Welsh folklore horror game, and it leans hard into that. Round-based horde combat where the monsters are pulled straight out of Welsh mythology. The easiest comparison is Call of Duty Zombies. Weapon upgrades, perks, an Easter egg objective buried in every map on top of just surviving the waves. You can go in solo, technically, but the difficulty spikes hard once you're on your own. I tried it solo once just to see, got swarmed by round 3, and immediately understood why the lobby screen all but begs you to find a group first. Each map carries its own objective thread, not just survive, which gives the later rounds an actual reason to keep moving. The price is also exactly the kind of game you grab on a whim with 3 friends and don't think twice about.
Thank goodness you severed the link against all the odds.
Someone has to open the valves manually. Someone has to go inside.
The Chernobyl exclusion zone is a real place, abandoned, radioactive, and the team behind it actually went and photogrammetry scanned parts of it, so the environments you're walking through are built from the real thing. The game follows a physicist who returns to the zone to find his fiancée, who disappeared the night of the disaster, and everything else builds around that one thread. The game is more like a survival RPG than a typical shooter. Base building, managing a small squad, a time loop mechanic that ties the narrative together. The zone changes between runs, not randomly, more like it's reacting to what you've done, which gives repeat trips through the same areas a different shape each time. The combat is the part that's just okay, serviceable at best. It's clearly not where the budget went. I kept playing past midnight one night because I wanted to see if the plot actually paid off. And the story mostly delivers, and that emotional thread is what keeps the survival loop from feeling like busy work.
I'm gonna kill you.
Number 12, we have Dying Light: The Beast. This game is really hard in survival. I mean, survival horror. The game brings Kyle Crane back, the protagonist from the very first game.
Crane? Wait, just wait.
Who the hell are
Olivia.
you?
And yeah, there's a little Days Gone DNA here. Open world, parkour, infected everywhere, except the parkour in this actually feels good, which, that's not a knock on Days Gone exactly. And there is something different because Kyle can transform into the Beast for a limited time, and that power is upgradable. When you use it, combat changes and you can just punch through enemies without worrying about your health. It's more grounded than Dying Light 2, with a tighter scope, and the horror elements actually turned up, which I wasn't expecting at this point. There's a half-finished water tower early on, and if you climb it at the right time, you'll see a crowd gathering below. Just being up high is interesting enough that you might end up watching them wander around for longer than you'd expect.
Sleeping Beauty's finally awake.
Crisol, Theater of Idols. Don't expect the usual American setting here. This game blends Aztec mythology with colonial-era Catholic horror, which I haven't seen before. The art direction really goes all in. You see pre-Columbian symbols right alongside strong religious images. Combat is different too. Instead of regular guns, you use a weapon that absorbs your health and turns it into ammo, so your blood becomes your bullets. Most of the story comes through the environment. The pacing does slow down in the middle chapters. At one point, exploring started to feel more like backtracking than finding new things. Nobody is talking about this one, and that is wild because the health to ammo mechanic changes how you approach every single encounter. You're never just conserving bullets, you are deciding how much of yourself you're willing to spend to survive.
Its magic is fading. I can use the lift now.
Next time you come here, show some proper respect.
Sitting at number 10, S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2: Heart of Chernobyl. This game had to overcome a lot before it even became a reality. It's a beloved series returning after years away, made by GSC Game World, a Ukrainian studio that kept working through a real war, relocated, and still managed to finish the game. I'd compare it to Escape from Tarkov in how it handles survival. But here, you're in an open world full of mutants and faction politics instead of dealing with raid timers.
Who the hell are you?
The setting is the same zone as in Chernobylite, which I mentioned earlier. But while that game feels personal and focused, this one is much bigger. The A-Life 2.0 system creates a living world where factions, mutants, and stalkers go about their business whether you're there or not. You'll deal with anomalies, artifacts, radiation, and all the usual survival FPS elements. The launch had its problems, technical issues and performance problems that could have made people give up on it early. But patches have fixed a lot, and the game is much more stable now.
You got one or two of them miracles up your sleeve?
The Walking Dead: Saints and Sinners. Most VR horror leans on the headset doing all the work. Slap you in a dark room, point a flashlight somewhere, call it immersive. This one gets its horror from something most VR games don't bother with: physics. You're pulling arrows back out of walls to reuse them, crafting weapons out of whatever parts you've scavenged, stabbing through doors at whatever's on the other side, and every single one of those actions has weight to it, because your hands are actually doing it. It's set in a flooded New Orleans. Skydance Interactive made it, and resource scarcity here is brutal. You will not have enough of anything ever. And that scarcity is doing half the horror's job before a single walker shows up. There's a moral choice system layered in with real consequences attached, not just flavor text branching. And Chapter 2 Retribution keeps the story moving without resetting what came before. I stabbed a closet door shut from the outside once because I heard something behind it and didn't want to deal with whatever that was, and just left. And I think about that decision more than I think about most jump scares from other games.
You fancy a carve up, mate?
Number 8. Killing Floor 3. The community did not go easy on this one when it launched into early access with paid cosmetic DLC already in the store. Fair, that's a rough first impression to walk back from. Tripwire Interactive heard it, made changes, and the game underneath all that noise is actually really good. Which is sometimes how these things go. The loudest discourse isn't always about the part that matters most. It's the sequel to Killing Floor 2, 6-player horde combat, set in a near-future setting that's darker and more corporate than the series usually goes. And the Zeds are back with redesigned variants that genuinely behave differently than what you remember. I'd put the structure somewhere next to Left 4 Dead in spirit, if Left 4 Dead leaned all the way into gore as a core system instead of a side effect. The shooting and the dismemberment here are still some of the best in any horde shooter. Solo is technically an option, but the game is clearly not built around it. The pacing assumes a full squad covering different angles.
Oscar Mike, right on your doorstep, over.
At 7, No More Room in Hell 2. The original No More Room in Hell was a free source mod. Gritty, grounded, you were basically just some unlucky civilian boarding up windows with whatever planks you could find. The sequel, made by Torn Banner Studios, keeps the permadeath and sense of dread, but adds a whole extraction roguelike system. You level up a roster of characters over multiple runs, spend credits from successful extractions on perks and gear, and if a mission goes badly, you can leave early. Some longtime players are debating if these changes turn the game into more of a hero shooter loot game with a horror theme. That debate makes sense, and there is real tension about the game's direction. The infection system makes zombies no longer spot you by sight, they hunt by sound. If you run carelessly through a quiet building, it's basically like ringing a dinner bell. Even a small scratch can make you hear things, distant screams and voices that aren't really there. Sooner or later, you have to choose. Do you tell your team, or try to deal with it on your own before it gets worse?
Seriously? I'll call the army, send help.
Dead Island 2 spent almost 7 years stuck in development. Different teams tried to make it work, but it kept getting dropped, and leaked builds turned it into a running joke. Most people stopped believing it would ever come out, which surprised everyone after such a long wait. Calling this game horror is a stretch.
Take the gun!
No, you'll need it if they get past me.
It's set in a half-evacuated Los Angeles during a zombie outbreak, which the game calls Hell-A. The tone is more like dark comedy and Hollywood satire than real fear, with lots of over-the-top gore. You see skin tear, muscle gets exposed, and bone shows through, all in real time and reacting to exactly where you hit. It's some of the best gore effects in any game. You can choose from a group of slayers, each with their own skill cards, and the combat focuses on melee, with weapon crafting added in. I even found myself just watching a zombie's arm muscles separate from the bone in slow motion because the animation looked so good, and I got bitten because I was distracted.
Till death do us part.
Number 5, Eternal Evil. Honor Games made this completely solo, and it feels like a deliberate throwback to the late 90s and early 2000s golden age of the genre. You get tight corridors, limited ammo, no waypoints, and no regenerating health. The kind of design that expects you to pay attention. The game is split into 2 campaigns. Detective Hank Richards, who is trapped inside a hotel during the first wave of the outbreak, and Marcus, his ex-military counterpart working in the city outside. This setup is similar to what Resident Evil 2 did with Leon and Claire, giving you two perspectives on the same disaster, but only one path goes all the way through. The vampires especially have a way of latching on, and if you don't handle them quickly, they escalate. They get faster, meaner, and what started as a small nuisance can quickly turn into a big problem. Still, for a solo project that aims for a specific nostalgic feel, it succeeds more often than not. GTFO takes the number 4 slot. Look, this is not the game for you if you just want to jump into a random lobby and hope for the best. There's no matchmaking, no tutorial, and unless you show up with a team that already knows what to do, you're not really playing GTFO. You're just dying over and over with strangers. 10 Chambers Collective, the studio started by former Payday developers, designed everything around sound instead of sight. The enemies, called sleepers, don't care if you're hidden. They only react if you make noise. Sneaking past a room full of them isn't just an option, it's the main goal. When combat starts, it all happens at once with no time to catch your breath, which is the opposite of how most horde shooters work. Missions are called rundowns, which are groups of levels connected by a single story, and everyone requires real teamwork and planning. Most co-op games say they want communication, but this one actually demands it. The first thing you should know about Pneumata is that it was made almost entirely by one developer. It doesn't look or play like a solo project, which is either really impressive or a bit unfair to other solo devs, depending on your perspective. In the game, you play as David Hernandez, a homicide detective investigating a series of disappearances at the Clover Hill apartments. Soon, the walls start turning into fleshy, organic growths, and the hallways feel like they're being reused by something that isn't architecture anymore. Pretty early on, it becomes hard to tell where the real Clover Hill ends and whatever's underneath it begins. The game is first-person and mixes exploration, inventory management, and combat, similar to classic survival horror games such as Resident Evil and Silent Hill. You have weapons like pistol and shotgun, but ammo is limited, and you're expected to run away as much as you fight. Number 2 belongs to Scorn. People are almost evenly divided on this one. Some say it's one of the most powerful horror experiences they've ever had, while others find it boring. Both reactions come from the same design choice. There's no HUD, no dialogue, no text, and nothing guides you or explains what anything means. What really got to me was a door you have to open by feeding part of your own body into a socket in the wall. The game doesn't explain, it just expects you to figure out what you're willing to give up to keep going. Ebon Games made the whole world as one continuous space, with no loading screens to break the tension. The look is straight out, biomechanical, wet, and organic, as if it grew rather than was designed. It feels more like walking through Inside with a gun you barely want to use than playing a traditional shooter. And finally, number 1, Atomic Heart. Okay, real talk. This is the one pick on this whole list that people will probably argue with me about. The game takes place in an alternate 1955 Soviet Union, in a research city that's somehow decades ahead of its time, with floating buildings, smiling robot servants, and a perfect propaganda poster look. The game spends about an hour drawing you into this world before everything falls apart. The robots turn hostile, and the whole place descends into chaos almost instantly. You play as Major Sergei, a government enforcer with a polymer glove that acts as 5 gadgets in one: telekinesis, freezing, a shield, and an electric shock for anything that can be fried. Ammo is so limited that you end up making weapons from whatever parts you can salvage from destroyed robots just to survive the first hour. The civilian service bots have lifeless eyes and painted mustaches on faces that were never meant to show emotion. They just stand in the hallway, unmoving until you walk by.
We must get to the Bumblebee. I'll hack it and we'll fly out.
Well, first problem solved. The Bumblebee's down. What now?
Get to it. Hold me to its belly. I'll take control and order it to take you to Sakhalin.